Alright, I want to go ahead and find the sum of the measures of the interior angles of each convex polygon. Don't worry what convex means. All I care about is finding the sum of the measures of the interior angles. For instance, I want to find a decagon and for a 15gon. Decagon, remember, it has 10 sides, so I'm going to represent n as 10. And the formula for this is n minus 2 times 180. You don't necessarily need to memorize this formula because let's take a look at a decagon. Well, a decagon has 10 sides. How many triangles does it have? Well, it has 8, right? N minus 2. So this should be 8 times 180. And the reason why we have 180 because each triangle, the sum interior angles of a triangle, each of them is 180. So that should be 8 times 180, which if I put in the calculator, that's going to give me 1,440 for the sum of that decagon. And then for a 15gon, n is equal to 15. So then I'm going to do 15 minus 2. That's going to give me 13 triangles. So 13 times 180, which is equal to 2,340. So the sum interior angles of a 15gon is 2,340. Find the measure of each interior angle of a pentagon shown below. So I'm trying to figure out what x is. First, actually, this doesn't have an x, my bad. But I need to figure out how to create my equation. Well, since these are all angles, right, I have to equal to something. I know that the sum interior angles of a pentagon, well, pentagon has 5 sides. So if I subtract that by 2, that's going to give me 3 triangles, right? So I got to do 3. So 5 minus 2 times 180, that's going to give me 3 times 180, which that's 540. Okay, so I need to add all of these up and set that equal to 540. So I know that 2x plus 2x, that's 4x. And then 3x plus 3x, that's 6x. And then 14 plus 14, that's 28. And then I'm left with this 142, which is right here. And I got to set that equal to the sum of the interior angles of this pentagon, which is 540. So then, combine the like terms, I'm going to get 10x plus 170, which is equal to 540. And if I solve for x here, I'm going to have x is equal to 37. Okay? Now, all I have to do is plug them in. We know that the measure angle J is 142. And the measure angle H, so measure angle H, that is 2 times 37. And that's the same thing for measure angle K. So let's figure out what 2 times 37 is. 2 times 37 should be 74. So measure angle K is also 74. And then lastly, I need to figure out what measure angle M, and it's the same thing as measure angle L. So measure angle M, which is measure angle L, if I do 3 times 37 plus 14, that's going to give me 125. So this is 125, this is 125, and then this is 74, and this is 74. If I add all these up, that's going to give me 540. That's how you can check your work. Okay? Here I have this. It says use parallelogram. This is a notation for parallelogram. A, B, C, D to find each measure. So I'm going to go ahead and find a measure ADC. Measure angle ADC. I'm trying to figure out what this angle is here. I don't know what that angle is. But since this is a parallelogram, I need to go ahead and talk about the properties, right? Remember that opposite sides are parallel, and then opposite sides are congruent. So this side and this side is also parallel, and I need to put 2 tick marks there. Okay, so 100 and... Oh, and also don't forget that opposite angles are congruent too, right? Okay, so I need to go ahead and figure out measure angle ADC, right? And this is a line. So this whole line is 180. So I can figure this out by doing 180 minus 115, which is equal to 65 degrees. So this question mark here, I'm going to replace that with 65 degrees. And then for AB, so here's AB, again, by one of the properties of a parallelogram, opposite sides are congruent. So this side is opposite to this side here. So that means that since this is 12, this is also 12. Okay? So AB is 12. The measure of AB is 12. Okay, so for trapezoid Q, R, T, U, V, and S are the midpoints of the legs. So here are the midpoints. If QR is equal to 4 and UT is equal to 16, find the mid-segment, which is VS. So again, VS is the mid-segment, which is very important, and you have to know this formula. Mid-segment is equal to 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2. This is base 1, and this is base 2. Base 1 is 4, and base 2 is 16. So all I have to do is I do VS, which is equal to 1/2 times 4 plus 16. 4 plus 16 is 20. Half of that is going to be 10. So VS is 10. Okay? So I'm going to erase this now. I'm going to go ahead and figure out what this is. So VS is 9 and UT is 12, and then I need to figure out what QR is. So again, I'm going to use my equation up here, like my little formula. Mid-segment is 9, which is equal to 1/2 times my base. I don't know what that is, so I'm going to put a question mark there. I'm going to solve for that question mark. And then I'm going to add 12. So if I use the distributive property, I get 1/2 times the question mark plus 6. And I subtract both sides by 6 here. So that's going to give me 3 equals 1/2 the question mark. So then I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to get that question mark by itself. So then I get 6. So this should be 2. So I get 6 equals my question mark. So what does this mean? 6 is equal to QR. And that's my answer. Okay? Find the value of each variable in the parallelogram. Again, what we have to know is that this is a parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel. So this side here and this side here are parallel. This side here and this side here are parallel. And then the opposite sides are congruent. Okay? Because this is a parallelogram, then we have parallel lines cut by a transversal. So these are the parallel lines I'm looking at, and this is my transversal. Here's 83. So the opposite of 83, or opposite here, is going to be here. So 83. And then that's going to be, since this is 4y, I got to put 4y here because these are alternates, right? Alternate interior angles. And then lastly, I got to put, well, not really lastly, I got to put 42 here and 42 here. Because again, alternate interior angles are going to be your best friend. And then since this is 23, that has to be 23. Okay? So then, because this is a parallelogram, it is a quadrilateral by default. So I need to add all these up and solve for whatever I need to solve for. Actually, no, I don't need to solve it for anything, do I? Yeah, no, I do. Because I have this 4y here. So then if I, since there are doubles of, everything here. We have two 4y's, two 83's, two 23's. etc., etc., I need to go ahead and just write 2 times 4y plus 2 times 83 plus 2 times 23 plus 2 times 42. Oops, sorry. Oh, sorry, this is not working out how I want it. All right, so I got to equal that to 360 degrees. Now, if I combine all of this, combine the like terms, I get 8y, which is equal to 64. Okay, and I'm going to divide both sides by 8. I get y equals 8. Okay, so this, to summarize what I did here, because these are parallel lines, they're going to be cut by a transversal, right? So here's your transversal, and here's another transversal. These angles are going to be opposite of the transversal, so alternate interior angles are going to be playing a huge role in this scenario over here. Okay, now I need to go ahead and solve for x. Notice that 2x plus 9 is on the left side and 4x minus 5 are on the right side of this parallelogram. Again, you have to know that with parallelograms, opposite sides are congruent. So this expression is opposite to this expression. So I can do 2x plus 9, which is equal to 4x minus 5. And if I solve for x over there, I will get 14 equals 2x, or you can say 7 is equal to x. And this is what I'm trying to look for. That's all I have to do. Now, here it says determine whether each quadrilateral is a parallelogram, justify your answers. Now, 23 is kind of weird. Yes, opposite sides are parallel and opposite sides are congruent, but I don't have enough information here. So, if the left-hand side, or if the left side of my parallelogram, or this figure, I don't even know if it's parallelogram, I shouldn't say that. If the left side of this figure is parallel or congruent to the right side of this figure, then yes, this is a parallelogram. If not, if this is not parallel to this and not congruent whatsoever, then no. Because yes, it looks like by the picture, it looks like they are, but it could not be drawn to scale, so we just can't assume that this is a parallelogram. And I'm gonna play the safe and just write this in case. Okay, so over here, what do we have? We have a figure where we see some congruent marks here. Now, I'm going to say that this is a parallelogram because one of the properties say that the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. And because they bisect each other, it creates a midpoint. So if I'm looking at this segment here and this segment here, they should be two congruent parts, right? The midpoint is in the middle of this whole segment. And if I break that in half, well, this should be even to this one. And that's the same idea with this segment here. My midpoint is here. And this segment is congruent to this segment, so they should be even. Okay, so parallelograms, because the diagonals are congruent. Okay, algebra, find x and y so that the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So let's take a look at number 26. One of the properties of parallelogram says that opposite angles are congruent. Hold on, let me go ahead. So opposite angles are congruent, and this angle and that angle is congruent, so I can set them equal to each other. So I can take these, set them equal to each other, and then solve for y, or x in this case. So then what I'm going to go ahead and do is combine the like terms and then get x on one side and the number on the other side. So x is going to equal to, what is x going to equal to? 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the other one because I need to solve, since I solved for x, I need to solve for y now. So I have 3y. So I'm comparing these two expressions over here. 3y plus 36, which is equal to 9y minus 12. And then I'm going to go ahead and solve for x. That's going to give me, let's see, I have 14 on the left side, which is equal to 2x on the right side. So 7 is equal to x over here. So I have, whoa, sorry, this is supposed to be a y. And then that's a y too. Okay, so I have x equals 4 and then y equals 7. That's it.